And bravo!
It was my son's room.
On a stormy night at an orphanage, a young boy looks scared and leaves his room to head to the kitchen. When he gets there, he opens the fridge and sees the leftover cake inside. As the boy starts eating a part of it, an old man named Remy suddenly appears behind him. The boy looks scared and screams, but Remy just seems disappointed at him for eating the cake without permission. Remy eventually takes the boy to sit with him in the living room. There, Remy notices that the boy is scared of the storm, and he says he was just like that when he was little.
Here, want some whiskey?
No.
He then asks if the boy likes singing because that's what calmed him down on stormy nights when he was a kid. The boy asks what Remy used to sing, and he says it was a nursery rhyme. He says he didn't initially know the origin of the song, and it was almost like he'd always had it in his head. He then tells the story of when he used to live in France as a kid. He lived on a farm with his mom and was in charge of caring for the family's cow, Rosette. After singing the nursery rhyme several times to calm Rosette down,
Always had me sing it to her.
they head home together to meet his mom, Mama Barberin. On stormy nights, Mama Barberin also enjoys listening to the nursery rhyme, and she often tells Remy to sing it to calm her down. Interestingly, Remy has never met his dad, Jerome Barberin, who has been working in Paris for many years. One day, Mama Barberin receives a letter from her husband, informing her about a terrible accident on the work site.
Nonetheless, I'm sure I'll obtain a handsome indemnity.
Mama Barberin cannot read, so she takes the letter to an educated priest, who reads it to her. In the letter, her husband mentions that the accident was so bad that he'd probably never be able to work as a stone cutter. He adds that he believes he'd still be able to obtain a handsome indemnity, and that he needs his wife to send 400 francs to him so he can pay a lawyer who will defend him in court. He says he believes their savings should be enough to cover the cost.
Allow us to meet his demand.
And Mama Barberin quickly heads home to check how much she has. Unfortunately, the money she has been saving isn't enough, and this makes her sad. Since she still has to help her husband, she decides to sell Rosette to make some extra money. Remy isn't happy about this because Rosette is like his best friend, but there's nothing he can do to stop the sale. Mama Barberin eventually sells the cow to her neighbor, and Remy always sneaks over there to check up on his friend. One day, while he's with Rosette, he sings his nursery rhyme to calm her down.
Who's there?
Almost immediately, a strange man named Vitalis appears behind him. Remy doesn't know who he is, and as he looks scared, he runs away. When he gets back to the house, he tries to tell his mom what he saw, but she informs him that his dad is back. Remy looks shocked to see Jerome, who smiles and says he can now see why his wife struggled to pay his lawyer. Mama Barberin tells him not to say that,
This kid's a foundling who refuses to be brought to orphan.
but Jerome insists that he can't believe she really kept the baby with her after all these years. Remy looks scared and calls Mama Barberin his mom, but Jerome seems pissed and tells him to stop calling her that. Mama Barberin eventually tells Remy to excuse them, and as he heads to his room, he hears them arguing about the decision to keep him. Mama Barberin says she never hid anything from her husband,
And that's how I found my mother.
and that Jerome was the one who told her to keep Remy until his parents come looking for him. Jerome says it was years ago, and she should have realized that no one was coming for Remy. Remy looks sad when he hears this, and he realizes that he's not their son. Mama Barberin tells her husband that she couldn't have taken Remy to the orphanage, but he says it would have been the easy choice. As they continue arguing, Remy covers his ears and looks scared.
For this young buffoon?
Shortly after, Mama Barberin comes over to meet him. She then tells him about how Jerome found him in front of a church about 10 years ago. Jerome noticed that the baby had a luxurious blanket, and instead of taking him to the orphanage, he decided to bring him home to his wife, with the hope that Remy's rich parents would come looking for him. Mama Barberin was happy to take him in, but Jerome warned her not to get too attached because they'd have to return the baby one day.
Did it ever cross your mind that he might make you some money?
Mama Barberin then gives Remy the designer clothes he was abandoned with that day. As Remy takes a look at the clothes, he notices that the label on the blanket has been been removed. Remy doesn't care much about this, and he begs Mama Barberine not to let Jerome take him to the orphanage. She says she won't let him do that, and Remy hugs her. The next day, Mama Barberine wakes Remy up and mentions that Jerome thinks they'll be able to get money from the mayor for taking care of him all these years.
Pale and undernourished might be just what we need.
Remy thinks the mayor might refuse, but Jerome says they have the law on their side. Remy looks happy about this and hugs Mama Barberine. Shortly after, he leaves the house with Jerome, and they head toward the town hall. On the way, Remy suggests buying Rosette back if they receive a lot of money from the mayor. Jerome stays silent, and as he walks past the town hall, Remy looks confused and asks if they aren't going in.
You know perfectly well. You're going to the orphanage.
Jerome says they aren't, and that he's taking Remy to the orphanage because he cannot afford to take care of him any longer. He adds that he lied to his wife so that she'd let him leave with Remy. Remy looks disappointed and pushes Jerome to the ground so he can escape. Jerome quickly begs the people in the area to go after Remy, and they do this. Remy eventually runs into a nearby bar, and as he hides under a table, a black dog named Cappy barks at him. Remy looks scared and leaves his hiding spot, only to be grabbed by Jerome. Interestingly, Vitalis is at the bar, and he asks what Remy did to get everyone chasing him. Remy recognizes Vitalis and looks shocked, but he doesn't say anything. Jerome mentions that Remy doesn't want to go to the orphanage, even though that's where he belongs. Vitalis then invites Jerome to sit with him, and he offers to rent Remy for a year. Jerome looks confused and asks who Vitalis is. Vitalis introduces himself as a street performer who trains animals.
For 1 year to begin, and
He also shows Jerome his monkey, Lovely Heart, and his dog, Cappy. Jerome tells Vitalis to improve his offer, but he refuses to do this. Since he can still manage the money Vitalis is paying, Jerome finalizes the deal. Following this, Vitalis ties a whip to Remy's wrist and drags him out of the bar. They walk past Jerome's house, and Remy calls Mama Barberine to help him. She looks surprised to see him with a stranger, and as she looks at her husband, she realizes that he gave Remy up to someone else. She looks unhappy and tries to run after Remy,
The bill's 10 francs.
but Jerome stops her. Back in the present day, the young boy at Remy's orphanage looks sad as he hears Remy's story. Some other kids also come to the living room looking sad, and Remy realizes that they had been listening to his story. He says it's fine, and that they can all come over to listen to him. The young boy then asks if Remy ever escaped,
Don't be timid. You should greet our friend.
and he says he tried to do that on his first night with Vitalis. That night, while Vitalis is sleeping, Remy frees himself and tries to leave the small shed they're staying in, but he notices that Cappy is outside the door. As he looks disappointed, Vitalis suddenly wakes up, and Remy looks scared. Vitalis then warns Remy not to consider going into the woods at night because it's dangerous. As Remy sees him with a whip, he looks scared, but Vitalis says he would never beat him.
Here we'll find clothes befitting your new life.
He adds that he's only trying to help Remy because he would have been sent to an orphanage. Remy looks relieved, and Vitalis tells him to get some rest. As Remy sits on the ground, he looks at the luxurious blanket Mama Barberine gave him earlier, and he looks sad when he remembers that he was abandoned as a child. Suddenly, Cappy comes inside to play with Remy, and he looks happy. The next day, Vitalis takes Remy to buy new clothes and a boot. After a while, Remy asks why Vitalis is spending a lot of money on him,
Mr. Lovely Heart.
even though his animals don't seem to be eating well. He says that Vitalis gave the Barberines 3 silver coins and has paid more money for the clothes and boots. Vitalis then admits that he has spent most of his savings on Remy. He says he wouldn't have done that if he didn't think Remy was special. Remy looks confused, but Vitalis says he heard him singing the other day in the barn. He adds that he hired Remy to sing.
Now your job is to observe and to listen.
Remy looks worried and says he can't sing in front of a crowd because they'd mock him. Vitalis doesn't think so, and he mentions that if Remy sings the way he sang to the cow the other day, people will love him. As Remy still looks concerned, Vitalis gets ready to perform on the streets, and he tells Remy to observe, listen, and do whatever he says at the right time. Vitalis then entertains the crowd with some performances by his animals. After this, he calls Remy's name and tells him to sing. Everyone applauds Remy, and he stands in the middle of the crowd. As he looks nervous, he tries to run away but ends up falling to the ground. Vitalis quickly saves the show by playing it down as nothing serious, and everyone claps for Remy again. When they leave the town square, Remy starts returning the things Vitalis got for him. Vitalis doesn't understand this, but Remy says he's returning Vitalis presents because he can't sing. Vitalis says Remy only had stage fright and it's pretty normal. Remy doesn't believe this, but Vitalis says he won't let Remy's fear stop him from showing his talent.
That's you, isn't it?
Remy says he has no talent and that Vitalis is just a dog trainer. Vitalis says he knows just about enough to figure out that Remy has a wonderful talent. Remy still refuses to sing, and he says that Vitalis cannot force him to do it. Vitalis says he'd have to take Remy back to the orphanage in that case, and this makes him sad. As he sits on the ground, Vitalis sends Capi to give him a newspaper article showing a picture of when he was a violinist.
Is the letter A.
Remy looks shocked and heads over to ask Vitalis if he's really the violinist in the picture. Vitalis says it's him, and since Remy cannot read, he explains that the article was written after he left home with his wife and son to play before Italy's highest society. He says he was a violinist a long time ago, and that's why he can recognize when someone has a great voice. He also offers to teach Remy how to read and write so he can send a letter to his mom. He says he wants Remy to take his singing seriously, and that if he makes enough money, he can send some to his mom.
My tender mama, Barbara.
This makes Remy happy, and after a few weeks, he gets better at reading and writing. Vitalis also helps him write a letter to Mama Barberine to inform her that he's doing well, and that Vitalis is taking good care of him. Days later, Vitalis helps Remy write down the notes for his nursery rhyme. He then tells Remy to keep it close to himself, always. That night, while Vitalis is sleeping, Remy hears him calling the names Enzo and Angelina. He looks surprised and wonders if Vitalis is having a bad dream. The next morning, Remy asks about the names and if they're for Vitalis's wife and son. He asks if they're the reason he stopped being a violinist, but Vitalis just looks sad. Remy then says he didn't mean to bother his master.
These little notes contain what you are in the deepest part of you.
But Vitalis says that some names awaken old sorrows. Remy says he won't talk about the names again, and he asks Vitalis about their plan for the day. Vitalis says it's time for Remy's last exercise, and that he has to sing with blindfolds on. As Remy starts singing, he doesn't realize that there are people watching him. Vitalis eventually takes off the blindfold, and Remy feels more confident singing in front of people. Vitalis starts taking him to shows, and at an event for kids, Remy entertains the guests. The kids at the party look pleased, and as someone calls them to come and play with their kites, Remy tries to join them, but a butler stops him. Vitalis eventually calls Remy to come and work with him so that he won't feel intimidated. Just then, Remy meets a girl named Lisa, who laments that she can't play with the other kids even if she wanted to. Remy doesn't understand this, but Lisa suddenly shows him that she can't walk. Remy says he didn't know she was handicapped,
Like an English general.
Children?
and this makes Lisa emotional. Remy looks worried and immediately consoles her, but she laughs at him and says she was only messing with him. As they continue talking, Vitalis tries to separate them so that no one will embarrass Remy, but Lisa's mom begs him to leave them because she has never seen her daughter look so happy in a long time. After a while, Remy and Vitalis leave the boat where the party was held, but they soon get approached by police officers who accuse them of performing on the streets without authorization. Vitalis says he has no idea what they're talking about, but the cops don't seem to care much because they see street performers as beggars. As they're about to seize Vitalis's animals, Remy tries to stop them, but a cop hits him aggressively. The cop also knocks down Capi, and Vitalis tries to help Remy and his animals. Luckily, Remy is able to escape, but Vitalis is arrested.
I place you under arrest.
Since he has nowhere else to go, Remy heads back to meet Lisa's mom and ask for her help. Following this, Vitalis's charges are dropped, but the judge refuses to let let him go because the cops have discovered that he's using a fake identity. Remy looks surprised, and as Vitalis is being taken to jail, he asks if Vitalis's new identity has anything to do with Enzo and Angelina. Vitalis says it does, and that he's responsible for the death of his wife and son because he didn't care much about them, and he only wanted to be famous. He then narrates how his wife and son died in a fire at his house, and he wasn't able to save them. Remy feels sorry for Vitalis and says he'll be waiting for him to be released in 2 months. After this, Vitalis is taken to jail and locked up with a cellmate who has pneumonia. Meanwhile, Remy stays with Lisa and her mom. One day, Lisa enters Remy's room and says she has missed him. Remy says she shouldn't be in his room, but she just moves around and sees the baby blanket. As she picks it up and asks what he's doing with it, he quickly snatches it from her hand.
But I had never realized how much...
Lisa looks sad, and Remy says sorry for what he did. He then explains the story behind the blanket, and they soon become good friends who do things together. After 2 months, Vitalis gets released, and Remy looks really happy to see him. Lisa's mom doesn't look pleased, and she tells Vitalis that she wants Remy to stay with her because he has completely transformed Lisa. She adds that Lisa will soon undergo a delicate surgery, and she would like Remy to be by her side. Vitalis asks if that's all she wants, but Lisa's mom says she would like Remy to stay with her permanently. She says she would help him get the proper education to make him Lisa's personal butler. Vitalis asks about Remy's singing, but Lisa's mom doesn't think it's important.
The life he has with me is rugged.
Vitalis then says that even though the life Lisa's mom wants to offer Remy is more comfortable and less risky, his own path will build Remy's character. He adds that Remy is very talented, and he's trying to make him a successful singer who would come back one day to ask for Lisa's hand in marriage with pride. Lisa's mom still doesn't believe in Remy's talent, and Vitalis says he'll let Remy decide the life he wants. After thinking about it, Remy decides to leave with Vitalis, and they continue their journey. Days later, Vitalis gets sick and happens to be suffering from pneumonia, but he hides it from Remy. His symptoms eventually worsen, and as Remy tries to understand what's going on, they're surrounded by wolves. Luckily, Remy, Vitalis, and the animals are able to escape and find a cabin to hide for the night. The next morning, they discover that Lovely Heart is now sick, and they head toward the nearest town to get help. Elsewhere, Lisa's mom calls her to help with a baby wrap she's making for Lisa's little cousin. Lisa notices that the blanket is similar to Remy's, but her mom says she's probably mistaken because the model is from one of the most famous designers in London. As she's about to mention that she's sure Remy can't afford it, Lisa mentions that Remy was adopted. Lisa's mom looks shocked, and Lisa tells her everything Remy told her. Meanwhile, Remy and Vitalis find a nearby hotel to stay in, and they also get a doctor to look at Lovely Heart. The doctor says that Lovely Heart has pneumonia and that his condition is worsening. He also notices that Vitalis is coughing, and he suspects that Vitalis also has pneumonia.
Goodbye.
Since when have you been sick?
Vitalis says he knows, but that he's sure he can fight it. After a while, Remy asks Vitalis how they'll continue to pay for their room. Vitalis says he'll entertain the guests at the hotel to see how much he can make. Remy says they don't usually make a lot of money from their performances, but Vitalis says he'll play the violin. That night, he entertains the guests, who look impressed with him. After Vitalis's performance, Remy realizes that they still didn't make enough money. Suddenly, a lady shows up to praise Vitalis for his performance. She also mentions that she knows who he is, and she has always been a fan since she saw him perform when she was a kid. Vitalis says he's not the same person, but the lady still gives him a gold coin because she knows that he's lying. Remy looks happy about this, and as he runs to the room to inform Lovely Heart that they now have enough money for his treatment, he notices that the monkey is dead.
Louis d'Or.
This leaves him devastated, and Vitalis also looks sad. After they bury Lovely Heart, Remy sends a letter to Lisa. She eventually sends one back, and the hotel attendant delivers it to Remy. Elsewhere, the doctor comes over to see Vitalis again, and after a few tests, he mentions that Vitalis' condition is getting worse. He adds that if Vitalis doesn't accept treatment immediately, he might not survive for long. Vitalis still believes he can fight the sickness, and as he heads to the reception, kitchen, he sees Remy holding the letter he just got from Lisa. Remy looks really happy and gives Vitalis the letter so he can also read it. It then turns out that after Lisa told her mom about Remy, she sent a letter to all her friends. After a few weeks, they got a response from a barrister named James Milligan, who knows Remy's real parents. Vitalis looks happy for Remy and suggests going to London immediately. When they get to James's office, he takes his time to look at the blanket to confirm that it's a real one. Remy and Vitalis seem particularly worried that there are cops in the office.
Sorry about the presence of these two policemen.
But James mentions that it's only a precaution because many people have tried to scam Remy's real family in the past. After James confirms that Remy is the real baby that was kidnapped years ago, he takes him to meet his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Driscoll, who live in a dilapidated house. Remy and Vitalis look confused, but Remy's mom quickly hugs him and calls him Paul. Vitalis says Remy would like to keep his old name, and his parents don't complain about this. While they're having dinner together, Mr. Driscoll narrates how Remy was kidnapped by a woman who loved him and wasn't happy that he didn't like her back. Vitalis thinks it's a weird story, and Remy also sees his brother looking at him strangely. After Remy is taken to his room, he looks sad, and Vitalis asks if he's okay.
I won't be leaving London right away.
Remy says he is, and Vitalis mentions that he won't leave London too soon in case Remy needs him. Remy then tells Vitalis to go back to the hotel to see the doctor so he can be cured. After they hug each other, Vitalis leaves the house and tells Remy not to forget to always keep the nursery rhyme notes close to him because that's his true identity. He then says goodbye, and James pays him for bringing Remy back. Later that night, Remy is unable to sleep because the roof in his room is leaking. As he walks around, he sees some stolen objects inside a nearby room. He looks confused, but Mrs. Driscoll shows up and says he has found her treasure chest, as she calls him Peter. Remy remembers that she called him Paul earlier. He then realizes that she's not his real mom, but as he tries to run away, Mr. Driscoll stops him. Mrs. Driscoll then tells her husband to kill Remy already because James and the cops are still waiting outside.
Now you just better shut up!
As Mr. Driscoll is about to do this, Vitalis barges into the house and knocks down the couple's real son. He then attacks Mr. Driscoll and asks why he wants to kill Remy. Mr. Driscoll then confesses that James is behind the whole thing. He says that James is Remy's real uncle, who was supposed to inherit Remy's late father's fortune. However, his plan didn't work out because Remy's mother got pregnant. When she delivered the baby, James paid Mr. Driscoll to kidnap and kill the baby. Mr. Driscoll says he couldn't do it, and that's why he dropped the baby off in front of a church in France. He also mentions that he removed the label on the blanket so that no one would know where the baby came from. Vitalis then asks about Remy's family, and Mr. Driscoll tells him where Remy's real mother lives. Following this, Vitalis takes Remy out of the house and heads toward the address. Unfortunately, they get caught up in a snowstorm, and Remy passes out.
Remy, wake up!
Vitalis still carries him toward a nearby house, but when they get there, he realizes that they just arrived at the wrong place. Despite this, Vitalis keeps Remy warm and tells him to sing his nursery rhyme. As Remy sings it, Vitalis is unable to breathe well, and he dies while holding Remy. Later that night, Remy notices that Vitalis is unconscious, and he looks devastated just as two men find him inside the shed. The next morning, Remy wakes up in a beautiful room and sees a woman named Mrs. Milligan, who asks how he's doing. Remy says he's okay, and he asks about his master. Mrs. Milligan informs him that Vitalis is dead, and he looks devastated as he hugs Cappy. Mrs. Milligan eventually leaves the room and goes to meet James, who says that the boy has to come with him because he's a fraud. Mrs. Milligan says Remy is still hurt because he just lost someone close to him, but James seems pissed and complains that she's too soft. Mrs. Milligan asks why he's so upset, and he says he's just looking out for her. Mrs. Milligan then mentions that she'll let him take Remy away when he gets better.
Better? I'm better.
After James leaves, Mrs. Milligan goes to meet her maid, who is sorting Remy's old clothes. She also shows Mrs. Milligan the note she saw in his pocket, and as she looks at it, she feels overwhelmed and passes out shortly after Remy wakes up from a nap and sees the maid inside the room. The maid seems friendly and says that Mrs. Milligan wants to see him. After she takes him to a nearby room, he sees the toys on the table and looks amazed. Suddenly, Mrs. Milligan appears behind him and says that they're currently in her son's room. She says it's the one he should have had, and that she reorganizes and redecorates it every year with new furniture and toys, which she believes her son would have liked. She says it's almost 11 years since she last saw him, and she remembers how she used to rock him to sleep with a cradle song she learned from her mom. She adds that she thought she was the only one who remembered it until she saw the note in Remy's pocket. Remy then realizes that she's his mom, and she hugs him while calling him her son. After a while, James gets arrested for his part in kidnapping Remy.
I try to imagine what toys he would like.
And Remy also ensures that Vitalis gets a proper burial. Shortly after, he visits Mama Barberin and buys back Roussette for her. Jerome also looks surprised to see Remy, and he doesn't know what to say. In the present day, Remy tells the kids about how Mama Barberin moved to London to stay with him after her husband died. He says she also helped him take care of the first kids who came to the orphanage. After this, he tells the kids to go to bed, and they do just this. As he also heads to his room, he looks at his pictures and awards. Interestingly, it turns out that Remy fulfilled his potential as a singer and was very successful, just like Vitalis predicted. Remy then heads to his room and sits next to his sleeping wife, who happens to be Lise.
I respected his wishes.
After Jerome finds an abandoned baby boy outside a church, he takes him home to his wife, with the hope that the baby's rich parents will eventually come for him. When no one does, Jerome regrets his decision and decides to send Remy to an orphanage. Before that can happen, a traveling artist named Vitalis discovers Remy's singing talent and decides to rent him for a year. Even though Remy doesn't trust Vitalis at first, they form a great bond, and the artist eventually helps him locate his real mom.